Final Fantasy VIII Remake. A dream project that could happen after Final Fantasy VII? The possibility of a Final Fantasy VIII Remake has become one of the most exciting dreams for longtime fans of the legendary RPG series. While there has been no official announcement of a full remake, the idea feels more realistic today than it did years ago. Square Enix has demonstrated through the Final Fantasy VII Remake project that it is willing to return to classic games and rebuild them for a new generation using modern technology, cinematic storytelling, expanded worlds, and redesigned gameplay. The Final Fantasy VII Remake project is officially structured as a trilogy, with Final Fantasy VII Revelation announced as its third and final entry and scheduled for spring 2027. This naturally raises an exciting question. What could Square Enix do next after Final Fantasy VII? For many fans, Final Fantasy VIII would be one of the strongest candidates. Originally released in 1999, Final Fantasy VIII was an ambitious game that tried to do something different. It arrived after the massive success of Final Fantasy VII, but instead of copying its predecessor, it introduced a new world, new characters, and some of the most experimental systems in the entire franchise. The game followed Squall Leonhardt, a quiet and emotionally distant young mercenary, attending Balamb Garden. His journey eventually connected him with Reno Hardily, and a group of memorable characters, including Zell, Selphie, Quistis, Irvine, Laguna, and others. At its heart, Final Fantasy VIII was not simply a story about saving the world. It was also a story about love, loneliness, memory, identity, friendship, and the fear of opening yourself to another person. Squall and Reno's relationship remains one of the most important romances in Final Fantasy history. The original game was limited by the technology of its era. Its cinematic moments were impressive for 1999, but today's technology could transform scenes such as the sea graduation, the assassination mission in Delling City, the battle between gardens, the journey through space, and the dramatic final confrontation with Ultimecha into spectacular cinematic experiences. Imagine Balamb Garden fully realized as a living academy, where players can explore classrooms, training facilities, dormitories, cafeterias, and hidden areas. Imagine traveling through the futuristic cities and fantasy landscapes of the world without relying entirely on static backgrounds. A Final Fantasy VIII Remake could make its world feel larger and more believable while preserving the strange, dreamlike atmosphere that made the original unique. The Final Fantasy VII Remake project has shown one possible direction for remaking a classic RPG. The original game's story has been expanded, characters have received additional development, and combat has evolved into a hybrid system that combines real-time action with strategic commands. Square Enix describes the remake project as a modern reimagining rather than a simple visual recreation of the 1997 original. The junction system was one of Final Fantasy VIII's most unusual ideas. Players connected guardian forces and magic to characters, then assigned magic to different statistics to increase their power. Some players loved the freedom and customization. Others found the system confusing or disliked drawing large amounts of magic from enemies. A remake would have the opportunity to improve this system dramatically. Instead of removing junction entirely, Square Enix could redesign it to make it easier to understand and more exciting to use. Guardian forces could become an essential part of combat, exploration, and character development. Players might build different combat styles around different GFs, allowing Squall, Reno, Zell, and the rest of the party to feel unique. For example, Squall could focus on close-range sword combat while using junction abilities to enhance defensive or elemental attacks. Zell could develop into an aggressive martial arts specialist. Selphie could combine magic and unpredictable support abilities. Reno could receive a completely expanded magical and ranged combat system. The goal should be to preserve the creativity of the original while removing unnecessary frustration. Its combination of science fiction, military technology, futuristic cities, and fantasy elements would look incredible using current hardware. Balamb Garden alone could become an unforgettable location. The garden is not just a school. It is eventually revealed to be something far more extraordinary. Seeing its transformation and movement recreated with modern visuals could become one of the greatest moments in the remake. Then there is Esther, one of the most technologically advanced locations in Final Fantasy history. The original version already had an ambitious futuristic design, but a modern remake could turn Esther into a breathtaking science fiction city filled with flying vehicles, enormous structures, advanced technology, and hidden secrets. The contrast between peaceful locations such as Balam and the highly advanced world of Esther could give Final Fantasy VIII Remake a visual range unlike any other game in the series. Fans want the original story to be respected. One of the biggest discussions surrounding any possible remake would be the story. The Final Fantasy VII Remake project took creative risks and expanded beyond a straightforward recreation of the original. A Final Fantasy VIII Remake could also add new scenes, deeper character development, and expanded lore. But many fans would probably want Square Enix to be careful. Could it really happen? At the moment, a Final Fantasy VIII Remake remains speculation rather than an officially announced project. But the possibility cannot be dismissed. Square Enix has already committed enormous resources to reimagining Final Fantasy VII, and the company has officially confirmed that the project will conclude with its third installment, Final Fantasy VII Revelation. Interestingly, discussion about future Final Fantasy remakes has continued. Recent reporting on comments from Naoki Yoshida indicated that other massive entries, including Final Fantasy VIII and Final Fantasy IX, would themselves be enormous projects and could potentially require even more than a trilogy to remake at the same scale. That highlights the main challenge. A modern Final Fantasy VIII remake would not be a small project. Rebuilding its world, story, characters, combat, guardian forces, and cinematic moments could require many years of development. But fan demand could make the idea increasingly attractive. After Final Fantasy VII Revelation brings the current remake trilogy to an end, Square Enix would eventually face an important decision about the future of its classic catalog. Will the company move on entirely to new Final Fantasy worlds? Will it create smaller remasters? Or will it choose another legendary game for a massive modern reimagining? If it does, Final Fantasy VIII deserves serious consideration. The game has one of the most distinctive worlds in the franchise, a memorable cast, an ambitious story, and gameplay systems that could become something truly special with a modern redesign. It also has moments that would be perfect for cinematic next-generation presentation. A Final Fantasy VIII Remake should not try to become Final Fantasy VII Remake 2. It should embrace what made the original special: its romance, mystery, futuristic world, military atmosphere, and experimental gameplay. For now, fans can only imagine the possibilities. But once the Final Fantasy VII Remake trilogy reaches its conclusion, the dream of seeing Squall Leonhardt, Reno Hartley, the Lamb Garden, the Guardian Forces, and the world of Final Fantasy VIII, rebuilt for a new generation, may become louder than ever. And if Square Enix listens to that demand, Final Fantasy VIII Remake could become the next great journey in the evolution of the Final Fantasy legacy.